What's up, guys? I'm Uncle Freedom, coming to you on a glorious and well-deserved day off. So how's it going? First things, y'all, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. That, after all, is how we push more Pro 2A content out to the masses. Somebody like you does not even realize people like me exist. And you liking, sharing, or subscribing pushes that video out to more people, and then they join our fold as good folks that are out there doing the good things. I would also say take a minute and check out some other YouTube things, right? We have long since gotten into this weird pissing match on the internet between people that do gun stuff on YouTube, where we like to talk crap about the other people that are in our sphere. I don't have to agree with everything you say, but I'm also not going to tear you down, right? You don't get that from me, and you never will, because that's not my purpose. My purpose is to provide good information and to make you better than you were the day before. The only way to do that is to not crap on other people, because that is kind of the definition of you not being better than you were the day before, right? I don't get into that with other dudes. That said, a couple of guys that I have really been enjoying as of recently is like Joel Park and Ben Steger. Not necessarily the drama part of the house, but when they start talking about how to shoot and move more efficiently, love that. That is awesome. I'm even rocking my Ben Steger Pro Shop hat today. Another one that I truly appreciate is the Modern Samurai Project, Scott Jedlinski over there. He does not have a ton of videos, but the information in his videos is exceptional, and I highly recommend them to anybody that just wants to know more stuff, right? So this actually started. This is a part of the Ultimate Comprehensive Guide to Concealed Carry. And this started off because I was asked the question, first off, YouTube, I'm going to show firearms today. None of the firearms are loaded. They've all been safety checked and cleared, but I'll show you that again because people are scared about that over the internet. I'm also in a safe area of my home, which I maintenance work on firearms. I dry fire down here. There is Kevlar vest on the wall in case something should happen, but it can't because there's no ammo around me. Now, why would you ever choose to carry a revolver? Sounds like a really interesting video. That will happen. But what it boils down to when we talk about that is very little to do with the gun itself, and it's a lot more to do with your mindset. So when we talk about concealed carry, like the act of concealed carrying, we hyper focus on the firearm, right? We are just hyper focused on the firearm itself. But we really need to look at this as a complete system, right? Like there's a bunch of moving parts to the firearm, right? From the firearm itself to the ammunition we select, to the ammunition feeding devices that we use, to the holster, to the belt, to the clothing that we choose. But nowhere else, the most important part of this that never gets tapped into, and that is your mindset as a concealed carrier, a prepared defender of people, right? That part of this is the part that we just don't talk about, and it's like legit the most important part. Now, I agree. If I go to a class, I don't want to know about mindset unless I am in a use of force class. However, I want to shoot because that's what that is. But that's where this videos like this exist, right? Because I can talk to you about the proper mindset for doing this stuff, because we're not expecting to go kill paper on the range, right? We have all pretty much had the fantasy part of this where, like, you know, we're out and about and we're with these people, and then a situation arises, and then we identify, train in on, close with, and eliminate that threat, therefore saving the day. And in that very statement I made is the hugest problem, the biggest problem we have in the concealed carry world. And I just told you what it was. Who caught it? It's all right. If you didn't, we're going to keep going. We see this issue manifest itself, maybe not in our actions that we envision ourselves taking most, but in the gun itself. Now somebody's gonna be like, wait, what, huh? Remember, I said this started off as a why would you carry a revolver when like semi-auto handguns exist, right? And I am guilty of this, right? I love making a handgun my own, right? Whether that is undercutting the trigger guards or re-stippling or adding a comp or a light or a mag well or an optic. I love optimizing my platform to give me every single advantage I can should the day I walk into Walmart be the day that the open division gunfight takes place that I am just present at and nobody told me it was coming, right? And then so that I can identify the threat, run to and engage and destroy the enemy. That's the issue. outside of very, very, very specific situations, us running into a fight is the absolute wrong mindset for a defensive concealed carrier, right? That is not the goal of carrying a firearm every single day. That is the difference between going and looking for trouble and getting myself out of trouble, right? I can get myself out of trouble. Clear. I can get myself out of trouble with this Taurus 405 40 caliber 5-shot double action single action revolver. I can get myself out of trouble with this, right? Do I need that? I'm not saying you don't, right? It's America. Do what you want. But I can get myself out of trouble with this. Having something decked out to this level, or, you know, a 2011 style handgun, is kind of overkill for what we need right now. That's not saying don't carry, right? Because again, I want every advantage humanly possible should I find myself in that open division, like randomized active gunfight that is going on. But that said, I am far more likely to insert myself into something that I could have gotten people to safety and protected them. I am much more likely to get myself into trouble because I have this than I ever am of this is what I have, right? Because I know better than to go get myself in trouble with 5 shots of 40 cal in a freaking wheel gun, right? Man, I got all kinds of stuff on board, right? Like, I am confident and capable, and that is great. But this is the area we start seeing that mindset is a little different than what we actually needed to do, right? There is nothing wrong with if you have a proper mindset and this being what you carry every day because that's what you like. There is no problem with that, right? But setting this up so that I can win every gunfight and close with and destroy the enemy versus having that proper mindset of I need to get myself out of trouble, right? I need to get people out of trouble. And running into it is not how I do that, right? It may be the only option, but it should not be your default. So let's break down kind of the mindset that we're looking for in concealed carry and why it actually is so important, right? And you got to be really honest with yourself when we start talking about mindset, training, and firearms and all this other stuff. You've got to be very honest when you are learning to get a proper mindset around this stuff. So if I break down mindset, it is something known as the mindset triad, something I have covered in a separate video itself known as the mindset triad. That video, the triad itself, is your awareness, which is your surroundings, man. Like, that is your alertness to your surroundings, your, like, all this other stuff. Like, and it's super cool that you got all the gear, but you have no ability to recognize a pre-fight indicator, right? Like, you could have avoided that because you're, like, if you had, like, good awareness and a good mindset, but you didn't because you don't. And some of that's not your fault, but some of that is your fault. The next one is your preparedness. And that is the part we all love, right? The gear, right? Setting this guy up, man. That is preparedness, right? The training that takes place prior to that. My ability to be competent with that firearm, right? My ability to be hands-on with people where I need to be. My firearm maintenance, my ammo selection that I have. Like, all of that is my preparedness for this part of the triad. And finally is willingness, right? Willingness is to do harm. Like, there is no way to sugarcoat that. If we are talking about a lethal threat encounter, that part of the mindset triad is, can you do harm to another thing? But there's also a bunch of other stuff that goes into willingness that you may not have thought about, right? Like, what about jail or endangering others inadvertently with your actions? What about losing your family altogether? What about losing all your money and your financial security or losing your life? What about losing your children? You can be sure that your mental health is going to take a hit, right? Are you willing to lose or alter or augment all of those realities you hold now to go run into to do the work? Or do you need to solve it with something else, right? Like I said, the tool doesn't matter as much as the mindset we're carrying up here. I'm just saying that the tool decked out in that way is a pretty good indicator of your mindset, because it is. It's just reality, right? So if we look at the mindset triad as it pertains to our situation here in the concealed carry realm of being prepared, your awareness is what will get you into trouble most of the time. Again, being aware of things like available cover, where you're at, is like a super small part of our problem, right? It's important. Like, we need to know what stops bullets and can we get behind it, right? That's important, but it is a very small part of this. I have said this a long time and all the time to people. You will win every single fight that you find a way to avoid, right? That is reality. And awareness is the currency that we use that allows us to buy our way out of that fight that we have now won by default. Having the ultra most uber Gucciest of Gucci stuff is great, but if you do not know what a pre-fight indicator is, or how to recognize that you are in fact in danger, even though you may not be, and now you're off guard and you're playing the catch-up game in a situation where people are dying. Awareness is that currency that buys you that time. If you do not have good awareness, then we can work on awareness. We can learn how to be cognizant of our surroundings. Like, where was my last opponent cover? Hey, that dude's got his fist balled up. Like, he's kind of leaning in, right? I feel like this is going to go sideways. The way he's acting, he's bladed off his stance, right? Learning these little bitty indicators buy us the time to avoid that fight altogether. It is just like I said, even the simplest task of not recognizing cover, but recognizing your egress route, right? How do I get out of here if something goes wrong, right? Do I know the answer to that question? The simplest task of recognizing your egress points is the currency by which we change the dynamic between being buried by your loved ones or not being buried by your loved ones. It is a very simple math equation, right? Pay attention to your surroundings, learn to recognize pre-assault indicators, actions of people that are telling you something is wrong. Learn to recognize those things so that you use that as the currency to get yourself out of the situation before it devolves into a place where we need to start shooting people. Now, your preparedness, right? Preparedness is fun. We all agree. Preparedness, shooting guns, going pew, that's all fun, right? Like, being armed is the absolute most basic part of preparedness, right? It is super simple to go to the store and pick up said firearm and then a holster and then to consider ourselves prepared, right? That is what it is, right? Because the first rule of a gunfight is to have a gun, right? If you do not have one, you are a victim. That is a very different thing. But the other part of preparedness is knowing your capes and limbs, right? What are your capabilities and limitations, right? That is a part of your mindset. Do you know and understand your capabilities and limitations with that ammo, with that firearm, right? In this environment. Not only of your ammo, will that bullet do what I need to do when it gets there, but you as a shooter, right? Should I be doing the thing that I am doing right now, right? Or am I causing more harm than good? But there's also more. There's a lot more to preparedness, right? How good are you as a fighter? There are a lot of gunfights that take place all over the place in America that should have been a fist fight. But the reason they were not a fist fight is because their lack of physical skills or prowess led to them using a firearm as a trump card. Harsh reality, people don't want to hear that, but it's true. You see this bad shoots with cops, right? Like, bad shoots with cops are appalling because they are offered all kinds of stuff to learn to be better at this. But you see guys that don't have the physical skills, or they're getting older and they're aging out, and they don't have confidence in their ability to physically deal with that situation, hold that guy down until somebody else can get there. So they escalate artificially to a taser or a stick or a firearm, right? We see that take place. It is a real tangible thing that we can witness on a daily basis. There are all the time, we hear of people that are like carriers of firearms that are citizens of our great country that get themselves into a situation, but because of how it started devolving, they found themselves incapable of matching up physically, or were afraid they could not, and rushed to the gun. The gun is like the last part of like a very long strain of events, right? Like, there's a lot of options in between like me yelling at you and a firearm. Your physical fitness also plays a part into your preparedness, right? The way your body deals with stress and adrenaline in those like kind of situations, like, I will promise you that like when adrenaline and like your lack of physical fitness like team up on you, your ability to effectively process any kind of a situation, any threat, when things are dangerous, when they're not, what your options are, when you should be doing or not be doing something, all of that is going to get just smashed into a bucket, shaken up and thrown away. Like, that is how that works, right? Your physicality, it will team up to a devastating effect on you if you do not have some kind of basic physical fitness and a base level of being able to stand and throw hands if you need to, right? Not all of this gets affected by that. Your ability to think rationally, your ability to process, to make a good decision, right? To notice when a situation is evolving or devolving, to make that accurate hit, like, and end the fight, right? Like, the ability to make accurate low percentage shots degrades really fast when we dump in adrenaline and a spiked heart rate, right? And then we say that, hey man, you're gonna play catch up, right? Because your situational awareness sucks. So now you got to run and hurry and catch up to the situation. And then you, where your adrenaline spiking and everything going wrong, have now made a bad decision in something that should not have been a gunfight, escalated immediately to a gunfight because you were going to fix it, right? Like, that's reality. That happens. Cops do this crap. It pisses me off when cops do it too, because it's dumb. You should be better than that. It happens, man. It degrades. It becomes something known as lizard brain, right? You hit that fight or flight response. And once you've hit that fight or flight response, you making rational stuff, if you have not had exposure to heightened adrenaline in the decision-making process previous to that moment, are about that big, man. You ain't doing it. It's reality. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, right? That's the competition shooters make pretty decent defensive guys. You know why? Because their whole life in shooting revolves around like, and then like going and running a gun really fast, right? This is also the place where we find that famous saying of, you will never get better in a fight, but instead will devolve to your highest level of efficient training, right? If you have never made a shot onto a low percentage target at 40 yards, you are not going to suddenly do it that day. It ain't gonna happen, man. I'm sorry. If you can't do it to begin with, you ain't gonna do it when all the adrenaline shows up and starts kicking you in the ass. If you are fat, out of shape, and can't effectively process a situation of any kind, you are a liability, right? You are not an asset in this situation. You'll do a lot more harm than good, and you'll start to endanger others, right? So if you want to talk about where this part of it starts with you, man. Be honest with yourself. I am a fat, lazy, out of shape person. I should do something about that. I'm going to go for a walk every day, because everything starts, like the longest journey on the planet starts with a single step, right? Make yourself better. That's how you start winning this, right? Be better. So the next part of that preparedness triad, as we see, is like, we have to be completely truthful about our skill, about our capability, right? I just touched on this a little bit, right? Like, if you never made a shot at 40 yards, you don't need to start today. It's probably not the day to do that. Knowing that I can get a perfect, I smacked that, a perfect high upper thoracic shot is great. That is awesome, right? That's the goal. But knowing when I shouldn't be trying to make that shot is infinitely more important than knowing I can make it. And we not only know and understand this part of mindset, we can only know it if we're brutally honest with ourselves, right? And I don't mean that like, hey man, I can make that low percentage shot, particularly at the end of my range day when I am completely dialed in, warmed up on a high contrast, flat range target with the perfect exposure that is completely static, not moving, and I am shooting from an outside the waistband holster system with a pistol belt and powder puff range loads, and the only shot process I have to worry about is the beep going off. That is not the same thing. I mean your true capability. That's how we know when you shouldn't do something. Your true capability, stone cold, from concealment, with a 200 freaking heart rate, a moving target that looks like every other freaking person in front of you, every other target around there. It's one specific target, but that target looks like every other target, and it's moving just like the rest of them are. Oh yeah, and that target is actively shooting back at you or at other people. Was your shot timer and all of that, like your shot timer in this situation is gunfire taking place while you were trying to get your kid's picture taken with Santa? That's reality, right? Nobody wants to talk about that part of reality, but that is in fact reality. You are not dialed in. You are not warmed up. You are not in your gamer rig on the range, waiting on a shot timer to go off that you know is coming. You are at the mall with your kid, taking his picture. You are stone cold. Your stuff's a little wonky. Maybe it's not perfectly positioned or whatever because you had to make an arrangement with your gear because this is the first time you carried it forward because you had to wear a suit to wherever this thing was that you were attending, right? Also, the thing that's doing the bad thing looks like the rest of the things that are walking around. Also, they're all moving. Oh, and they can hurt you back, right? That is a far, far, far cry from low percentage shot on a static target with high contrast and no stress of anybody trying to hurt you, right? It is what it is. Knowing that real set of facts, nobody, including me, is happy about my preparedness. I said it. You know why? Because I'm honest about it. I'm not freaking perfect. Like, knowing that that is the environment in which this will take place, and knowing my current level of preparedness and proficiency with a firearm, even I am not happy looking at that set of parameters, right? But that's what this is about, man. Be honest with yourself. If you're honest with yourself, that is the single most important part of mindset that you can do as a prepared citizen. Knowing when you shouldn't do something because you're honest with yourself, that is what is important. So now we look at your willingness, right? Willingness in relation to the mindset of a prepared citizen defender, right, is at the same time the easiest part of this to implement, but is also the most misunderstood part of implementing any part of this, right? And at its core, it boils down to, are you willing to do harm to another living being that is intent on harming you or other people, right? Like, that is a decision you personally have to make, right? I don't get to make that for you. You have to decide, because not everybody can. But just looking at it on its face, right, is only a fraction of our problem when we start talking about willingness. This is just a tiny little piece of it, right? Are you willing to do X, Y, and Z because that dude is attempting to do X, Y, and Z, right? That is the tiniest part of it. But we have to look at this through that lens of honesty that is so important when we start evaluating our own levels of preparedness, right? So number one in this is, who or what are you willing to die for? I need you to answer these questions on your own, because this is important stuff, right? Who or what are you willing to die for? Number two, who or what are you willing to leave your kids without a parent for? Because that's a reality, right? You can get killed. Are you willing to leave your kids minus your tutelage as a parent forever? Are you willing to do it for this, right? Number three, who or what am I willing to destroy mine and my family's financial security for? Maybe what you did was entirely justified and you did a good job at it. His family can still sue you for wrongful death. And there's a high likelihood you will lose. And your retirement is gone, right? They can take your house. All kinds of things can happen. Who or what are you willing to destroy yours and your family's financial security for moving forward? Number four, who or what are you willing to go to prison for, right? Because we live in a modern society where people that do the right thing are getting jailed up by people who don't like what you did. Who or what are you willing to go to prison for, right? Your list gets a lot smaller as to when you're going to respond now, right? Let's keep going. 5, who or what are you willing to kill for? You got to ask that, right, man? Like, what are you willing to do? Number 6, who or what are you willing to destroy your mental health for? I don't know who needs to hear this, people in the back, but the act of taking another life is not a normal act, right? We rationalize it because it's necessary a lot of times, but that is the reason soldiers end up broken, because doing this kind of stuff day in and day out, or doing it all together when you weren't prepared for the environment to happen, wrecks your mental health. It's just reality. Not only your mental health, what about your kids' mental health or your wife's mental health? They were all present, right? Number 7, who or what are you willing to put your family's mental health after, right? Your kids, your wife. Are you willing to subject their mental well-being to the damage that's going to happen that you may be willing to accept yours for? Are you willing to do that for somebody else? To your kids, right? Number 8, Who are you willing to be maimed for? Maybe you don't die. Maybe you're just paralyzed and you're in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. Maybe you lost your arm. Maybe you have a colostomy bag forever. Who are you willing to do that for? Keep going. Number 9. Who or what are you willing to make your family clean up the shattered pieces of your mental health and psyche for? That's going to happen, man. Nightmares, night terrors. Like, it's just a part of it, man. It's part of the landscape. Ask any combat vet in the world, right? Like, that happens. Like, we don't have control over that shit. Who are you willing to put your family through that for? Number 10, and probably the most important one, is, are you willing to live with yourself if you don't do anything? Nobody said this is easy, but it's real. So if we finish this up, now that we've kind of talked about this mindset, if we leave our house every single day with the mindset to go to war, we're not right? That is not the option, right? I see this all the freaking time, right? I get it, the world's an uncertain place, right? But I've got my truck gun, my plate carrier, my battle belt, and like my bag in the back. And if something should happen, I'm going to run to the parking garage. I'm going to put on my plate carrier. I'm going to put on my war belt, and I'm going to put my concealed carry gun in the bag where I have my full duty gun over here. And I'm going to close with and destroy the enemy. There are so many facets to being a prepared defender. It is not just, I have a gun, so I'm going to go guns out, right? Or even worse, the people that have that mindset, and everybody's heard this, that dude said, oh man, I carry a gun, I wish a motherfucker would try, right? That is one of the scariest things to hear, right? Because that tells me at 100% you have zero grasp of what this world really is, right? The art of gunfighting, getting into fights, like real talk. People with that mentality have very little concept of what's really going on. We should all strive to be aware of as much as humanly possible, and our goal every day should be to avoid at all cost any kind of any situation that would put us or our families through the trauma that happens post this incident. But we should also stand ready, because there may be no other option than you being the good guy with the gun. You have to strive to be that calm in the center of the storm, that calm in the face of danger, and be honestly confident in your capabilities to handle a situation from a hand-to-hand or restraining an individual all the way up to lethal force. And that means everything in between, right? Pepper spray, batons, right? All of this stuff exists, and it's a tool you can put in your toolbox. But even though our goal should be to avoid it at all cost, we should stand ready to do the thing, because that may be the only option. But you should understand all of it first. We should strive to be the very best people that nobody ever would suspect is armed. That should be your goal. We should strive to place other people before ourselves. You should be nice. You should be kind to people. But you should always be ready to step into the other part of your role and do what needs to happen to protect innocence. So why would you ever carry a revolver? Because a revolver will get you out of trouble. Closing with and destroying the enemy is never the correct mindset. That is your last resort, because you've been placed there by somebody else. But it should never be your default. So guys, I am Uncle Freedom. Hopefully you found this informative. And take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Till next time, I'll see you later.